Hey Brush Monkeys, welcome back. I want to do one more short video before we get into the painting the Realm of Chaos figures again. I know I keep putting them off and showing you, like, here's these cool figures, and then, oh, but wait, here's something else I got to handle before we get into that. Sorry. But I wanted to go into real quick the importance of test bases and how useful they are as a trial for things. And as an example, I've got here several test bases that I've done for past projects, and where I started going with the test bases I was making for the new Realm of Chaos figures, which is where I got into this. Got into the idea to do this video because I'm having a little bit of trouble with the Realm of Chaos figures, to be honest. Okay, so here's a test base that I did just as an example out of the Citadel basing manual. It's an ebook that came out, and I did a bunch of test bases just like this, and these are just 25mm bases with a little magnet glued on the back, and I painted it like Steel Legion drab, I think, and then put some texture paint there, beg your pardon, Armageddon Dust texture paint on there. Shade washed it with Agrax Earthshade, dry brushed it, and that's how they came out looking. And it looks great. And I've got a lot of bases like that. I've got like 3 or 4 different kinds. Here's one that's a little muddier. Here's one that's kind of Martian dust. And these are great because I can hold these up to the figure when I paint a scheme and get an idea of what basing color would set off the figure nicely. Like if I'm using green figures, maybe I want to do a reddish base, that kind of thing. And then, like I said, I put magnets on the back of all of them so I could stick them up. My workbench is metal, and I could just stick them up along the top of my workbench, and there's a nice little visual reference for when I'm painting. And then this is one of the Necromunda bases that came with the Delac gang that I painted in a I was trying to paint them in a Blanchitsu style, and so I wanted it to be very limited palette and also very dark and dirty, but I didn't like these tiny little bases they came on, so I bought, well actually when I bought them I didn't realize they were going to come with these little scenic bases, so I ended up buying this scenic base kit, which is the same kind of thing, but it's got larger bases, 32mm bases, and there's a shit ton of them in this box. But I didn't realize they were going to come with scenic bases, so I ended up using one of their scenic bases as a test base, and then actually put them on all the 32mm bases, and that worked out really nicely. It gave me a chance to see what the paint scheme was going to look like before I did it, before I put all that work into all those figures. Same way with this one. This was a scheme I came up with for the Necrons that I was painting. I wanted it to look like kind of a rocky sort of desert base, but I also have some I wanted to experiment with not just doing the crackle base on this, like you can see the deep cracks in there, but I also want to put some texture on there. So I've got some of that Armageddon Dust texture paint on there in little sections, and then put some tufts on there and some rocks, and that looks really good with the Necrons. But again, I did the base first, and then last but not least, I have this is kind of huge because it's 40mm, but I was out of the 32mm bases. This is just a test base I did for the Blood Bowl figures that I painted for my brother-in-law recently, and I just wanted to make sure that was actually going to look like grass and look like the yard line on there, and it came out looking pretty good, so that's what I ended up doing with them all. I'm really pretty happy with how it came out. But the whole reason for doing these test bases is because there's a saying in miniature painting that faces and bases make models look aces, and that's because the face is the focal point of the figure. It's got the most detail to it. It's where your eye is drawn when you're looking at a figure. The base of a figure is what tells the story. It tells you what environment this person is in, what kind of conditions they're fighting under. It's the setting for the figure. A figure can be painted up just fine on just a plain base, it's not going to tell any kind of a story when you're done. So I had this idea of doing similar but slightly different basing for the Realm of Chaos figures, where I was going to do crackle paint, I was going to do the crackle effects, and then do a little bit of green on them with some tufts, and then I had the idea of putting a little rock on the base for the Slaanesh figures. I think I'm probably going to end up leaving that off, because it seemed on a 25mm base where most of the Demonettes are, it seems a little busy, and it doesn't leave a whole lot of room for them to stand on there. So I'm probably going to leave it off of the Demonettes, but I may do it for some of the larger ones. And then just purple band for Slaanesh, and then some flowers, because they're nice and pretty, and they sow kind of a garden wherever they walk in the Realm of Chaos. So I wanted that to kind of stand out a little bit on their bases. And then for Khorne, I've got, of course, Khorne red base band, and I was going to have the same crackle effect, but I was going to have just one tuft on there, and it was going to be kind of a scraggly little kind of desert wasteland sort of tuft, and a skull on their bases. And that's not quite as big. That still leaves them, most of the bases are 32mm or bigger, so they're going to be bigger than this base, so it still leaves plenty of room for them to stand on there. But when I was looking at this base and I saw the nice big cracks in there, which, by the way, is the way I did that is I painted the base brown to begin with, and then I painted a little bit of white glue over the base, which is what I've done with these two. These are just primed green, and then they've got white glue painted over the top of them, and that's why they're still kind of shiny, because the glue's still wet. And that makes stuff like the Citadel's Agrellan Earth or their Martian Iron Earth crackle paint crack really nice and deep, and it makes these big cracks in there. So I thought, wouldn't it be cool if I had a black crackle paint, and then I painted the base itself yellow with a little bit of orange in it, and made it like really nice and bright, and then I painted this black crackle paint over the top of it, and when it cracked, it would show through that yellow and orange and look like lava. And so I decided that's what I was going to do for the Khorne. So this is kind of a failed experiment. I'm not using this as their basing anymore. I'm still going to go with this design for Slaanesh, because I really like how that looked, but this one is no longer the Khorne base. I'm going to put that off to the side. The problem I ran into is Agrellan Earth is not black. And if you add black paint to it, it can kind of cut down the amount of crackling you get out of it. It doesn't want to crackle anymore with paint added to it. And you can't paint over the top of it, because, I don't know if you can see this or not, but that cracks into kind of a lot of pieces. And they're flimsy pieces, so if you try to paint these little things, you're going to paint over some of the cracks, you're going to fill in some stuff, and you're going to miss a lot of stuff, and it just doesn't work real well. So I started looking at other crackle mediums, and I came across two solutions that I thought would work. One of them was Vallejo Crackle Medium, which you base coat the base, then you paint the crackle medium over the top of it, let it dry, then you paint the color that you want to crack over that, and that cracks and works out great. The video I saw of this online involved they were again trying to make a lava base, but when they painted the black over the top of the Vallejo medium, it cracked in a very regular fashion. It wasn't like random crackling like you get out of the Agrellan Earth. It looked more like flagstones. There was a very noticeable grid of cracks along the thing. So I didn't really like that. The other solution I found was this stuff called Crackle Paste. And really all it is it's kind of like the it's sort of like the gray pumice, but much finer. I don't know if you can see that. It's really nice, really smooth stuff, and very little grit to it at all. It really feels kind of smooth until you like really get down to it, and it's kind of powdery. But I bought this stuff at Michael's, and this had 8 fluid ounces in it. Then I bought a pack of these little jars, which are 2 fluid ounces each, So 2, 4, 6, 8. I could divide this entire thing up into these jars and it'd work out perfectly. So I just tried it in one jar and I came up with this. And I know that's kind of hard to see, but again, it's very fluid looking. Basically all I did was I took the crackle paste and I mixed in some black craft paint with it. And that's gotten me a lot. If it works, it's going to take a lot of, it will cover a lot of bases in just this little jar of stuff. So that's going to work out pretty nicely. The problem I ran into is on the instructions here, it says apply to primed rigid supports minimum 1/16 thickness, which is way thicker than I need for miniatures. So I don't know if it's going to crack thinner than that. And then it says allow 3 or more days for curing and cracking. So 3 or more days, this takes about 3 times as long as the Agrellan Earth dries and cracks in about 2 hours. 3 days is a bit much. So I'm experimenting with that now. This is the base I originally did. And as you can see, it's got these really nice little ridges and bumps. This was applied with the Citadel texture tool, like you use for any other texture paint. And it looks really nice. It looks like lava. It looks like dried lava. It looks like pyroclastic flow, but it's a pretty decent lava. The problem is I put this on Thursday. It is now Sunday as I'm recording this, and it has yet to crack. It's still just, you can see a little bit of the yellow paint around the edges. You can't see the cracks in there at all. It's not coming through at all. I don't know if it just hasn't sat long enough, if it's on too thick, too thin, what the deal is, if it just hasn't cured yet. So I wrote a number 1 on the bottom of this base. And then I've got these index cards with the number 1 on there. I'm going to write, you know, crackle paste, black paint, primed base, all this kind of thing, all the specifications of what I did here, and then let it sit there and think about it. Let it sit for about a week and see if that cracks it up. This one is a test base I did. I put together Saturday. I put this together yesterday when the other one wasn't cracking at all, but it still had, I don't know if you can see it on this or not, but this one little ridge, I put a little divot in with a fingernail there, so it's still kind of soft, but I thought maybe it just needed some more time to cure. But I also thought maybe it had gone on too thick. So I took this one, same mixture, painted the base, painted the crackle medium on a little thinner, put that on with a brush, and I don't know if you can see it real well on this camera, but kind of when you tilt it, you can see those little shiny spots. That's where it's a little bit thinner, and you can almost kind of see the yellow through that, and that's only after a day. It's not cracking per se, but it's showing through, and so that may end up being a little better. The third base I did, number 3 here, is what I like to call a control base. This is just the crackle paste mixture painted onto a primed base. I just spray primed it, waited till it dried, put the crackle paste on there. You can see through it fairly easily. It's still not cracking. Again, I just did this yesterday, so it may or may not work. These last 2 bases that I primed, it occurred to me that to get the decent cracking that I got out of my test base here is after I painted it and got that nice deep brown base color on there, I put a layer of white glue on it. I painted that white glue on there, and that's what created the nice deep cracks. And so with these 2, I painted the white glue on the base. So when this dries, I'm going to have one base that's got just the crackle paste on it, and then I'll have one base that's got the crackle paste paint mixture on it, and we'll leave all 5 of those for about a week and see what happens, see which one works the best, which one cracks the best. I'll have all these note cards filled out with all that information of how I primed it, how I base coated it, what mixture I used, whether I put glue on there or not, whether I put it on with the texture spatula or a brush, and all that kind of thing. And hopefully at the end of the week, this will resolve itself. It'll crack or it won't crack. On some of them, all of them, I don't know. It's science. So we'll hopefully have some results at the end of the week, and then I'll do the second part of this video and show you what I learned, and we can go from there. But this is why test bases are so important, because sometimes you might have an idea for a really cool idea for a base. Like I think the lava base is, if it cracks and shows that yellow and orange through in the bottom, it's going to look really fantastic with those corn demons, especially the blood letters. I think it's just going to look amazing with those and with the hunters. I can glaze a little bit of yellow on the undersides of them to give a nice OSL effect. I think it's just going to look fantastic if I can get it to work. It's getting it to work. This is the experiment here, though. And you know, sometimes you might get an idea that sounds really fantastic, but it just doesn't work, or maybe you don't know how to get it to work. And this is where test bases come in. And all these extra bases I've gotten were either extra bases in box sets of figures, like I'd get a set of 10 Space Marines and it came with 12 bases for some reason. Or you could just buy packs of bases, like Citadel sells. Let me see if I can get it. Sells just mixed base pack like this. It's 23 bases. It comes with 10 25 millimeter, 10 40 millimeter, and a couple of the larger ovals, and that kind of thing. And you can see I still got a bunch in there because I don't really use the big ones that often. Or you can just buy, I think they just make packs of 32 millimeter bases. They make packs of 25 millimeter bases, and you can just buy a pack of bases. This was $13.50 for 23 of them at my local game store. Shout out to Tabletop Games, by the way. They're where I buy all my stuff. Walter and the guys really do a fantastic job over there. I don't know if they watch these videos, but shout out to them anyway. So that's where we are in the first part of this. I'm going to go ahead and do these two bases and fill out all the index cards, and at the end of a week I'll come back and do the second part of this, and we'll see if any of these cracked, how they look. Oh yeah, the reason I'm doing bases with just the crackle paste is I'm not sure if mixing the paint into it is what caused it to not crack or what, but we'll see. So yeah, coming back in, I'd like to say come back in about a week, but it's going to be the second part of this video, so you know, you don't have to go anywhere. All right, see you in a week. Hey, Bro Monkeys, welcome back. I wanted to do a quick update on the basing experiment that I was running the last couple of days. And I gotta say the results are a little bit disappointing. This is the original base that I put way back on the 30th. It was last Thursday. This is a mixture of the Crackle medium and black paint that I had. There are still no cracks in it. No visible cracking whatsoever. It's got a nice lava flow kind of texture to it, but there's no crackling, so I don't know why I had to mix it with Crackle. The second base with the Crackle and paint mix applied with a brush, it went on a little thinner. Still has some slightly thin spots that in the right light you can kind of see the yellow through it, and you can kind of see them shining on there on the camera. But you really can't tell what color that is. It's just slick spots, so nothing there. The control without any paint in it, painted on with a brush, shows no cracks. So the Crackle medium, let's see what's on this one. Oh, the Crackle paste with the Elmer's glue on the base, which is what I do with the Grelin Earth here, I paint white glue onto the base, and then I paint that stuff on there. So putting white, and it makes it crack a lot better, which is, I decided to make this one test piece 0. This is the original test base that I made with the Grelin Earth, and you can see it's got really nice deep cracks in there. It really shows the color underneath it and everything. That is the goal. That's what I want to end up with. I don't know if you can see on this one or not. There's a couple of little cracks, or actually fairly big cracks. There's a bunch of little cracks on it, but those are the only 2 cracks really big enough to show the color underneath through. And it's just, that's just not big enough. It's not adequate for my purposes. Then the mixture with the color brushed on over white glue shows there's a couple of little thin cracks, but they're not near wide enough to show the color through. It's just sorely disappointing in that. The one that worked out the best, I think, is the I primed it with Mephiston Red spray and prepared it with Elmer's glue, and then mixed just crunch that a little bit, mixed a Grelin Earth with black at a 50-50 mix, and that has shown some promise. That shows some pretty deep cracks, and you can definitely see the red through it. I don't know if it shows up real well on that camera, but try and get a better angle. So you can see some of the red through the cracks, and that shows quite a bit better. It's got a lot bigger, deeper cracks around the outside edges where the glue is a little thicker. So I think what I might need to do is a couple of coats of Elmer's glue on the bases, and then mix the Grelin Earth with Abaddon Black and paint that on. And I think it's going to give me the effect that I'm looking for, because I think that really looks good as a lava base. I think with the yellow underneath it, it's going to look even better. I think it's going to pop a little bit more than the red does under that. And oddly enough, when the stuff was on wet, it looked like kind of a dark brown. Now that it's dried, it dried quite a bit darker, and it kind of looks black. So I think that's going to work. Went through all the trouble of getting this big thing of crackle paste, thinking the Grelin Earth wasn't going to be good enough, and the Grelin Earth is fine. Just mix the Grelin Earth with black paint, and that seemed to have achieved exactly what I wanted it to. So I guess all the rest of these are failures. This is the closest thing I have to a success. I'm going to do one more base in the yellow with the, or at least I'll probably prime it white. And then put the Grelin Earth and black paint mixture on there, and after a few layers of white glue, and see how that works out. And if it does what I want it to do, then I think we got a winner. So check back with you in a little bit and see how that works out. Thanks a lot. Alright, brush monkeys. I'm gonna wrap up this video about the lava bases. This has been a frustrating experiment. I've gone through now 10 incarnations of this, and the results aren't what I would have liked. I was looking for something like, you can see really nice deep cracks in that show the base coat. Hopefully I can get a result like that, but with the base coat of yellow, and then the crackle paint over the top being black, and make it look like lava. Unfortunately, sometimes as painters we run into situations where we come up with an idea for a really cool paint job or a basing idea or something, and it just doesn't work out, and start all over again, figure something else out. Thomas Edison, when inventing the light, incarnations of attempts that didn't work. and before he finally got one that did. To fail so many times. He said, I have not failed 1,000 times. I have successfully found 1,000 methods that will not work. And that's kind of the approach we have to take with stuff like this. I haven't been through 1,000, I've only been through 10. But fortunately, in my case, I figured it out. So, I came up with that worked the best, I think, are Agrellan Earth and Abaddon Black mixed in 50-50 and put over. These were all put over just a shit ton of white glue. It's like probably 3 or 4 layers of white glue before putting on the mixture. This is the Agrellan Earth mixture over a white base coat, and you can see it's got nice deep cracks on that. If I do something like this on the bases, I may do put some of the original mixture of crackle paste and paint that didn't work, but it came out with the right texture and the right look. The other one I did that came out really nice that I liked is this one. This is Agrellan Badlands, which is kind of like Agrellan Earth, but and this one, if you can see that one, it's also got some nice deep cracks. The base coat's a little harder to see through because I used red. There's some nice big deep cracks in that thing, and it's also got some nice texture to it. So I think a combination of these two is probably going to work. I'll use the Agrellan Badlands on some of the larger figures, use the Agrellan Earth on the smaller ones, and I think it's really going to come out looking nice. A little bit disappointing are I used Martian Iron Earth, thinking that because it was already would come out when I mixed it with black, it would come out a little bit darker red. Unfortunately, it kind of came out kind of a weird brown color, kind of ugly, and you can see that there. It's just kind of this ugly brown with a little bit of black streaks in it. Got nice deep cracks, but the lava itself looks like garbage, so I'm not real happy with that one. And then the last one I tried was some of this Vallejo Crackle Medium. Just Vallejo Crackle Medium. And ideally with this stuff, what you do is you paint the base coat on the paint that you want to crackle over the top of it. And I did that, and the top layer of Abaddon Black came out, dried really quickly. And it came out with some, I guess, decent cracks. I can see the tone underneath it. I don't know to see there, but you can see some of the cracks and you can see some of the undercoat. They're not very deep cracks, and they're a lot more regular cracks than I would have expected. These are more of this is almost like a wood grain kind of thing to it than like I was expecting. But these two, the Agrellan Earth and Agrellan Badlands crackles, I think those worked out really well, and I think those are what I'm going to end up using for the corn bases. So I'm going to make some notes on the, I wrote recipe cards for them, basically. I can get that up there. See, that's the last one. Of what you're doing, especially if you're doing an experiment like this, where you might be using a lot of different incarnations of it and have a lot of different bases. I went through all my 25mm bases doing this, but I've got recipe cards made out for all of them, and then I took a red sharp so that I know when I go back through my card catalog, my recipe book, I can see which ones worked and which ones didn't, and the ones that worked, I can use those for the future basing idea.
And I think that's really going to work out nicely. Fortunately, the miniatures that I'm going to be doing next was already figured out, and it was kind of a similar thing, but if you don't remember, it looks like that. It's this crackle medium with a little texture medium, a rock, and some flowers on there, and I think that's going to look really nice. So there you go. There's test bases for you.
Hey Brush Monkeys, Tom from Flying Monkey. Hey Brush Monkeys, I just wanted to shoot a quick addendum to the video you just watched. This is the problem with recording these videos as far in advance as I do. Like, I recorded about 12 videos before I ever posted one of them, so I have a constantly rotating supply of about 14 videos. So by the time you watch this, it's actually going to post sometime, probably September, I think, is when it's due to post. Give me just a second to check my notes. Yeah, it's going to be middle of September before this posts. And I actually recorded it end of May, early June, and spent about 13 weeks trying to figure out the lava base thing and decrying Games Workshop's lack of a black lava paint. And the funny thing is, right after I finished that and I edited that whole section together, the June White Dwarf came out, and in it is a tutorial for how to do lava bases using this new texture paint, or using this new technical paint called Mordant Earth. And this is what it looks like here. And it is, as you probably guessed, a black crackle paint. So of course I bought 2 pots of this. I did test it out on the Bloodletter that I had tested out the contrast paints on, and hopefully you can see that crackle on there. It cracked up pretty nice. I mean, that really looks like a good lava base. I'm using the mixture that I made of the crackle paste and the black paint from the craft store as cooled lava around the character's feet, so it doesn't look like they're standing on the fire. But yeah, overall it crackled really nicely, and it really shows that nice yellow and orange basing through the base. It really looks good. So yeah, you can go step by step like I did and experiment with other crackle mediums and crackle pastes and mixing up your own crackle paint to get that effect, or you could just go buy this Mordant Earth. I know I say in a lot of videos that I'm trying to swap out all my Citadel paints for other paints as they go on. Citadel does do some things really well. Their crackle, or their basing paints, the texture paints, are fantastic. Their shade washes are fantastic. I just don't like their paints. But yeah, Mordant Earth is the stuff you're looking for. Go buy this stuff and just save yourself a lot of trouble, a lot of 3 weeks worth of trial and error like I just had. So yeah, thanks and have a good day. Hey Brush Monkeys, Tom from Flying Monkey Studios here. If you like what you see, click like. If you want to find out when new videos get posted, click subscribe. Comment below on what you want to see on future videos. Visit our Patreon site for lots of ways that you can support me in doing what I do. You can also visit our Instagram and Facebook pages to see all the miniatures that I paint on this channel, and see how you can get your hands on one of your own. So thanks a lot for your time, and thanks for watching my videos, and I will see you guys later. Bye.